It's not Friday if I haven't dipped my toe across the pond. It's been suggested that Joe Biden may be announcing his intention to run for 2024. I thought he already did that on that weird Easter Bunny show. And yes, even though it's only April, much like here in the UK, the US is gearing up for the primaries. Joining me now is senior advisor to President Trump, Jason Miller. Good evening, Jason.
Lawrence, great to be back with you.
Jason, what's the feeling in America about Biden standing again?
Well, it's not very good. If you look at Democratic primary polling, he's only at about 22, maybe 24% in the Democratic primary. When you look at the nation overall, about 71% of the country thinks we're going in the wrong direction. And a key indicator is when you ask people, have things gotten worse over the last 3 years? 69% say they have. So the conditions are not good for Joe Biden right now.
And what do you make of Robert Kennedy Jr. Announcing a bid for the Democratic nomination in the last few days? Do you think he seems to be coming in at 13 points? Is that going to hold, do you think?
So this is the interesting part, is that there is a big chunk of the Democratic base that does not like Joe Biden. And I think that Kennedy is probably running more to push his position on opposing some of the government mandates. And I think many of the things that Robert Kennedy Jr. says are pretty courageous. I think he could really give Joe Biden some fits for the simple fact that Joe Biden isn't particularly strong on the campaign trail. Look, if folks in the UK see Joe Biden making the comments, confusing the black and tans with the all blacks, magnify that by 1,000, and that is the daily fumbles and stumbles in the United States.
I mean, personally, it's taken me a few days, where you get sort of jet lag of opinion to see Biden canoodling with a terrorist in Joe Biden and talking about the best drop of blood in you is Irish and this terrible shun of the coronation of our future king. Should Britain be looking to America as a special relationship anymore, or should we be looking to you as a strategic foe in a way?
Well, I think there's always going to be a special relationship between the UK and the United States. And I think with President Trump, I think that relationship would get stronger. But I do have to say that as a proud American, I was rather distraught that Joe Biden, as our commander in chief, even though obviously he's not someone who I voted for, heads over to the UK and to Ireland, but doesn't go and do anything in London or in England, especially with the coronation coming up. It really it was a scramble in the brain. I don't understand what the thinking was to it. I don't know. Maybe Biden's handlers thought this was the easiest way to get him out of the news. Just send him to Ireland and let him try not to cause problems there. But as we saw, he made even more of a controversy. And quite frankly, it made a lot of Londoners and a lot of UK folks rather upset.
Yeah, and he's also carrying around and canoodling with his own son, who is a known criminal. Taking us on to your boss, the man you're working for, and Mr. Donald Trump. He's seen a large boost in the polls following the indictment by Alvin Bragg in New York City. What are Americans' views on what's going on in Trumpland?
Yeah, really interesting. What we've seen with Alvin Bragg, who's the Manhattan district attorney and indicting President Trump, is we've seen a big boost in fundraising, big boost in poll numbers for the Republican primary, but also in 4 of the 5 most recent general election polls of Trump versus Biden, President Trump has been leading. 2 polls from YouGov and The Economist, also from Hill Harris, and then also from Fabrizio and Associates. Those are all 4 polls outside of the Trump camp. And so I think it's really put things into focus that just like in 2020, where they used big tech in the media to come after President Trump, now they're trying to use the judicial system. And in fact, a plurality, Lawrence, of Americans now say that the justice system in the U.S. has been weaponized. That's a scary thought, because that means that basically they just go after political opponents, which is what we see in, say, Brazil or other countries in Central and South America and around the world. It's a dangerous place to get when one political winner can just point to their political foe and say, you know what, let's try to arrest them.
Absolutely. And thank you, Jason. Just finally, where does DeSantis sit in all of this? What's going to happen with him?
So it looks like Governor DeSantis is going to run for president. I don't think it's a good idea. President Trump leads DeSantis by between 20 and 30 points nationally. In most of the key early states, it's somewhere between 10 and 20 points. Big development. So in Florida, where you have 20 Republicans in the congressional delegation, 10 of them have all endorsed President Trump within this last week. So it's a bit of those who know DeSantis the most actually like President Trump the best. And I think that's really telling. And so we see a lot of momentum shifting back. But President Trump has seen a big boost following the indictment. The party is really galvanizing behind him. And I think we're going to get King Kong versus Godzilla, Trump versus Biden once again.
Oh, yeah, it's very noble of you to say King Kong versus Godzilla. I'd say King Kong against my granny walking around with it into walls, in terms of, sorry, more balanced, I'm being told in my ear. Anyway, Jason, thank you for coming on, and looking forward to seeing what happens in America.